Welcome back, designers. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can demonstrate C.R.A.P in your designs. You heard me right. C.R.A.P stands for the principles of contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. I'm going to show you how you can demonstrate C.R.A.P through various different techniques on Adobe Photoshop. I'm going to select the layer for contrast, and I'm going to zoom in on this picture of a geisha. Now you could say the picture of the geisha already has contrast. You could contrast the black of her hair to the white of the skin, to the plainness of the background versus the pattern in her dress. But I want to create a really interesting effect where I'm going to make all of the image black and white so that her skin or this mask that she's put on really stands out and shows significant contrast from the background. To do so, I'm going to select the geisha layer. That's layer 1 in my layers panel, but you can double click anytime and name it something. So I can name it geisha to make it easier to identify. I'm going to go to the bottom of my layers panel and I'm going to select my create new fill and adjustment layer icon, and I'm going to select the black and white adjustment layer. This will immediately turn the entire image black and white. I'm going to select auto to further increase the contrast in the image. But now what I want to do is I want to reveal the actual color in her skin. To reveal the color in her skin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the mask icon in the layers panel. I'm going to go and use my brush tool, which is tool number 9 in the toolbar. I'm going to make sure that my color is set to black. And I'm going to start painting in the actual mask that she basically put on through a lot of makeup. And what this is going to do is it's going to slowly start revealing the color underneath. In fact, I could make it even more precise by going and drawing a selection. So I'm just going to draw a selection using lasso. You can draw a selection using any selection tool you want. And then painting or masking the inside to reveal her makeup from the black and white mask. I recommend zooming in so you can see closely what you guys are doing in your masking. I can mask out by selecting white as my color, and doing so is going to bring back the black and white adjustment. So now when I zoom out, you can see I have significant contrast in this image because everything else is black and white except for her face, which is now in vivid color. So I'm contrasting the desaturated background with the highly colorful face makeup that she's wearing. Moving on to my second artboard, under repetition, I want to create repetition in this artboard by creating a pattern of shapes. You can use any shapes that you want. I'm just going to go and create a pattern using these circles. To create a duplicate, all you have to do is press Ctrl J on your keyboard and drag, and it's going to create an instant duplicate of the shape. What I'm actually going to do is select both simultaneously by holding down Shift, and then I'm going to press Ctrl J and duplicate 2 at a time. Likewise, I can go and select all of these by holding down Shift or dragging a marquee over all of the shapes, and I can hold down Ctrl J and drag to create my pattern. I can see that the circles are slightly going outside of the artboard, so I'm going to select them all by dragging a marquee over all of the circles using my move tool. And then I'm going to use Ctrl T to resize my images, to resize my circles so that they fit inside of the canvas. So already I created repetition. It clearly repeats the same shape to form a pattern. But this is looking a little dull, so I want to play around with a little bit with the actual look of this pattern. So in my layers panel, I'm just going to go and expand it so you guys can see a little bit more clearly what I'm doing. What I'm actually going to do is group each of these ellipses into one group so that I can edit them using layer effects more efficiently. I'm holding down Control and clicking on every ellipse in my artboard. Then I'm going to press Control G like Google, and doing so is going to take each of these ellipses and place them into one neat group so that I can apply effects to the group overall. To do so, I'm going to select the group. I'm going to go down to the bottom of my layers panel, go to FX, and play around with some of the effects. I might want to go and apply a gradient overlay effect on each of these circles, for example. Or I might want to apply a solid pattern overlay on each of these circles, which would apply a pattern directly to each circle uniformly. I could go and apply a stroke to each circle, which is going to give it a continuous outline. I could go and apply a bevel and emboss effect, which would go and make it look a little bit more like a tile, like a three-dimensional object. I could go and apply a drop shadow, which is going to apply a very thin, subtle shadow underneath each circle. And I can adjust the size and the spread accordingly. And when I click OK, each of these changes is going to be saved and applied to the group overall. The great thing about using effects is that if you don't care for the effect later, like if I decide I don't like the bevel and emboss, I can click the little icon at the right at the left of the effect that looks like an eyeball icon and just turn it off. So this is looking good. Clearly I have repetition. I'm just going to use a little bit more repetition of my color, and I'm going to apply a solid color background color. And I'm going to drag it under the ellipses. Then I'm going to sample one of the blues used in the pattern. And this will further create the illusion of repetition in my artwork. So far, so good. I've demonstrated contrast, I've demonstrated repetition. Now I'm ready to demonstrate alignment. So I'm going to zoom in to my artboard for alignment, which right now has a blank layer. To demonstrate the principle of alignment, I'm going to create a false layout for 3 individual people. So I wanted to kind of make it look like a magazine layout about 3 celebrities and some kind of information about them at the bottom. Because I'm using alignment, I want to make sure that my rulers are visible. So I'm going to go to the View menu at the top of my workspace, and I'm going to select Show and Rulers. And I want to go and drag out some guides to help me position each of the contents in my fake layout. So I'm going to go and drag a horizontal guide by clicking on the top ruler and dragging down. And this will allow me to position each of the frames that I'm about to make more efficiently. I'm going to use the frame tool. And with the frame tool, I'm going to drag out a frame, just a basic rectangular frame, where I'm going to be placing an image. I'm going to select File, Place Embedded, and I'm going to select an image of a person that I downloaded off pexels.com and position him within the frame. I'm going to do the same thing with the other 3 individuals. So I'm dragging out a frame, just a basic rectangular frame. I'm selecting File, Place Embedded. I'm going to place her picture inside the frame. And the great thing about doing it this way is that you don't have to mask it or anything. It already goes inside of the frame perfectly. And I'm going to do the same thing with one last frame. You can see the smart guides are on, so it's telling me that this is perfectly aligned, which is convenient because I'm supposed to be demonstrating alignment. So once more, File, Place Embedded, and I'm going to place the frame inside. So already I'm demonstrating alignment because each of these frames, image frames, is perfectly aligned. Now I want to go and add some text at the bottom. So I'm going to add basically 3 columns of text. To do so, I'm going to go and click inside of my type tool, and I'm going to drag out a box, and I'm going to drag it out till I see that purple line, which is going to let me know that I'm aligning it perfectly. And it's going to fill with text by default. The color is set to white, so I'm going to set it to black so I can actually see what I'm doing. I'm going to go and actually change the font real quick to a nice Calibri or a Cambria and change it to about 12 points. What it actually says is not important. I'm actually going to just be using the placeholder text for the time being. And to make my life easier, I'm actually just going to go and copy and paste these exact same layers and place them underneath each of the other images. I'm just using Control J once again to duplicate these text layers and place them perfectly underneath each image. To get rid of the guides, if they're bothering you at any point in time, you can go to View, Show, and Guides, and they're going to go away so you're not like looking at them the whole entire time. So now I have alignment. I have the basics of a periodical or a magazine spread, about 3 individual people here. So I'm ready to move on to proximity. To demonstrate proximity, I will once again be utilizing a basic ellipses, and I'm going to be creating a relationship between them by basically bringing them physically closer together. That demonstrates the principle of proximity. To do so, I'm going to make a duplicate of this ellipse by pressing Ctrl J once again. And I'm going to be utilizing my smart guides to help me position them roughly equidistant from each other. You guys are not going to create the same exact pattern as me. You guys are going to create your own patterns using the basic ellipses to show proximity. So if all these circles were scattered all over the place, they wouldn't show proximity, but the fact that they're together shows that there's some kind of relationship between them. They're forming some kind of image. Once again, I'm going to play around with different effects that I can use to apply to them uniformly. So I'm going to select Control. I'm going to highlight each of these ellipses. Then I'm going to go and select Control G like Google to group them so that when I can apply effects, they apply to each layer uniformly. And that, my friends, is how we're going to be demonstrating C.R.A.P in this particular design challenge. So once again, we need to create contrast by making an image black and white and then showing off selective parts in color. We're going to create repetition by basically repeating a shape, creating a pattern, aligning it with the same color. We're going to create alignment by creating a fake spread, utilizing 3 frames and then their corresponding text boxes. And we're going to show proximity by duplicating our shapes and basically bringing them closer together to show the principle of proximity. Once you guys are done with your challenge and you're ready to export, you guys are going to go to File, Export, and select Artboards to PDF. I'm going to click Browse, and I'm going to select my desktop as my destination. I'm going to call this file C.R.A.P, Final Draft. And I'm going to make sure that it says multi-page document so that each of the artboards in the document shows up as different pages in a PDF. Then I'm going to click Run. It's going to start blinking. Don't freak out. It's supposed to start blinking on you. Photoshop is just processing your request. Once I get the message that Artboards to PDF was successful, I should be able to preview it by going to my desktop. So that when I open my PDF, I can see that each of the artboards has successfully been exported as a page within the overall document. Not sure what happened to the gradient over here, but no big deal. I'm not going to freak out about it because each of my other pages perfectly demonstrates each of the principles demonstrated: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. Hope that video was helpful to you guys. Hit me up in the comments if you have any questions. If not, I will see you guys in class. I can't wait to see your own work based on this tutorial. Until next time, peace out.